Vishnupada Ashtatarashatashmat Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nityalapa Vishnupada Ashtatarashatashmat Srila Bhakti Vedanta Srila Swami Maharaj ki jai. Nityalapa Vishnupada Ashtatarashatashmat Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Nityalapa Vishnu-Bhāgavatam Srila Gokshara Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Nityalapa Vishnu Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Nityalapa Vishnu Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Rupa Nupariya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Patadasha Banath Sharda Vasai Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanantari Shri Gopal Shada Vrinda ki jai. Namachay Srila Hairas Thakur ki jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरी गौर भक्त श्री राधा कुंज श्याम कुंज की जय। श्री यमुना देवी कमला देवी की जय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंदा देवी की जय। श्री भावी देवी की जय। श्री पूर्णमासी गमाय की जय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद्-भागवतम की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्रीताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। राधे राधे कर्कराज। ओम ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपदाय राधिकाय प्रियात्मने श्री श्रीमद्-भक्ति-वेदान्त नारायणति नामिने। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति-वेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरतिशे नमः। गुरुवे गौरचन्द्राय राधिकाय तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तरभक्ताय नमो नमः। यं प्रव्रजन्तम् अनुपेतमपेतकृत्यं द्वैपायनो विरहकातर आजुहाव पुत्रेति तन्मयतया तरवोऽभिनेदोस्तं सर्वभूत हृदयमुनिमानतोऽस्मि। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। श्रीमतां स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तन वेदान्तस्तो ह्यभद्राणि विदुनोति सुहृत्सतम्। नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। तवास्मि न जीवामि त्वया विना इति विज्ञाय राधे त्वां नायमं चरणन्तिकम्। भक्त्या विहीन अपराधलक्षय क्षिप्ताष्टकामादितरङ्गमध्ये कृपामयि त्वं शरणं प्रपन्नवृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम्। भज श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Oh, that's really nice, Padumna Prabhu. Didn't know that. Like that Srila Prabhupada recommended to recite Tulsi prayer. All right, so also for a couple days, I'm just gonna do short readings, and then I'll continue doing like regular later on. But yeah, right now, Indira Mataji, who's been attending the classes for a long time, she's in Varshana, and she isn't able to keep up, so I just don't want to get way too ahead of her. Okay, so Devahuti's questions. Devahuti's first question, no, not her first question, I mean her fifth question. Please explain in detail the path of bhakti, which is the root, oh shoot, can't read this word. Anyhow. Which is the root cause of, no, I'm just trying to guess what it says. Anyways, which is, yeah, from which, okay, whatever. What is the root of the knowledge of Sankhya and the ultimate end of philosophical systems? Describe about the nature, that's her fifth question. Her sixth question is, describe about the nature of time, fearing which people perform pious acts. And our seventh question, please describe the continual process of birth and death of the jīvas, hearing which one becomes detached. So, I think it says root cause of the knowledge of Sankhya. Yeah. So now first Kapila Dev, he's explaining in detail, getting more into bhakti. First he explains, we already went through this yesterday, but he explains the performers of bhakti in the three modes. And this is how they're, these are how they're not pure. This is how it's mixed with ignorance. The performer of bhakti, he has intentions of envy, violence, pride, and anger. And that makes him devoid of any of compassion. So his bhakti is devoid of compassion. Then those who perform in the mode of passion, they have desires for material enjoyment, fame, and opulence. And so, yeah, therefore they desire objects other than the Lord. It's not pure, it's full of, it's rajasic bhakti. And then those who perform bhakti out of goodness, they have desires to free themselves from karma and offer the results of the Lord and worships the Lord. They do it as a duty. It's not out of love. It's not just for the purpose of serving the Lord, but they have desires for liberation. So that's bhakti in the three modes, three material modes. But there's a note here, bhakti doesn't become tamasic, rajasic, or sattvic, but the performer of bhakti has such qualities. So yeah, it's not the bhakti. Bhakti is always completely pure, but it's, yeah, that's clear, I think. The qualities of pure bhakti mentioned in chapter 25, verse 32 are mentioned here again for easy understanding. By hearing about my qualities, the mind flows continuously to me, unobstructed, just as the Ganges waters flows into the ocean. Such bhakti is causeless and uninterrupted. Kapila explains the lack of material desire in pure devotees by Kaumutikya, as illustrated by the example of Ganges. Devotees do not accept even spiritual benedictions. What to speak of accepting material things? Yeah, devotees don't even accept the 5 kinds of liberation. Devotees reject liberation without service. My devotees do not accept the 5 kinds of liberation even when I offer it to them, unless it involves service to me. So the 5 types of liberation, one is salokya, living on the same planet with the Lord. Shashti, having the same opulence as the Lord. Samipya, being an associate of the Lord, living with the Lord, being near to the Lord. Sarupya means having the same bodily form as the Lord. And ekatvam, becoming one with the Lord. So diyamanam na grinati, even when these 5 kinds of liberation are offered to the devotee, na grinati, the devotee does not accept it. Vina, without mat sevanam, service to me, jana, the devotee. Important verse to memorize. Bhakti, the highest state of existence is called bhakti, by which one surpasses the 3 guns, which is just the byproduct of bhakti. It's not the main thing of bhakti, but that's just liberation, But and bhakti is situated in the transcendental stage like me, or attain prem directed to me. So bhakti, that's the real fruit of bhakti, is that you attain prem. Components of bhakti for the purification of mind. Okay, so these are the beginning components of bhakti: executing prescribed duties without material profit, regularly performing one's devotional activities without excessive violence, seeing, touching, worshipping, praying, and offering obeisances to the deity, seeing with detachment and with patience every living entity is spiritual. And these are the qualities of a madhyam adhikar, those who are in the intermediate stage of practicing devotion. Respecting the spiritual master and the acharyas, showing these are how they interact with all different, for the spiritual master they offer respect, and all the acharyas they respect. They show compassion to the unfortunate. They are friendly with their equals. And then they execute all activities with regulation and sense control. They hear about spiritual matters. They chant the Lord's holy names. Their behavior is straightforward. They associate with saintly persons, and they give up any kind of false ego. Practicing these angas of bhakti gives rise to pure bhakti. Being thus purified by the above process, the mind of such a devotee is immediately attracted simply by hearing my name or qualities. Just as air carries an aroma from its source to the nose, bhakti carries one's mind to the Supreme Lord. This is an important point right here. It says, in the practice of bhakti, offense creates restriction. Offense generally stems from disrespect to great devotees. In order to avoid offense to them, one must respect all living entities. Now Kapila scolds out of affection. He scolds to benefit and teach his devotees who do not respect all beings. Yes, this is an important point, because if we disrespect all living entities, then it's very likely that we'll start to disrespect devotees. And if we disrespect devotees on our level, then it's more likely that we'll start to disrespect more advanced devotees. And Mahabhagavats, like, it grows our disrespect muscle. The more we use it, the bigger it becomes. So, okay, let's begin from where we are now. Aham sarveshu bhuteshu bhutatma vastita sada tam avagyaya mamartya kurutercha vidambanam. Oh wait, and what's Pujamana saying? Sampradaya, as you rightly said, our aim is to attain prem. And a sampradaya, yeah, exactly. Yes, good point. I am present in every living entity as the supersoul. If someone neglects or disregards that supersoul, if they disregard the supersoul everywhere and engages himself in the worship of the deity in the temple, that is simply imitation. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In purified consciousness, or Krishna consciousness, one sees the presence of Krishna everywhere. If, therefore, one only engages in deity worship in the temple and does not consider other living entities, then he is in the lowest grade of devotional service. One who worships the deity in the temple and does not show respect to others is a devotee on the material platform, in the lowest stage of devotional service. A devotee should try to understand everything in relationship with Krishna and try to serve everything in that spirit. To serve everything means to engage everything in the service of Krishna. If a person is innocent and does not know his relationship with Krishna, an advanced devotee should try to engage him in the service of Krishna. One who is advanced in Krishna consciousness can engage not only a living being, but everything in the service of Krishna. Yo mang sarveshu bhuteshu santam atmanam ishvaram Yetvarcham bhajate modyad bhasmaneva juhotisa. One who worships the deity of Godhead in the temples, but does not know that the Supreme Lord as Paramatma is situated in every living entity's heart, must be in ignorance, and is compared to one who offers oblations into ashes. Purport. It is stated clearly herein that the Supreme Personality of Godhead and its plenary expansion of Supersoul is present in all living entities. The living entities have 8,400,000 different kinds of bodies, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is living in every body, both as the individual soul and as the Supersoul. Since the individual soul is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, in that sense, the Lord is living in every body, and as Supersoul, the Lord is also present as a witness. In both cases, the presence of God in every living entity is essential. Therefore, persons who profess to belong to some religious sect, but who do not feel the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in every living entity and everywhere else, are in the mode of ignorance. If without this preliminary knowledge of the Lord's omnipresence, one simply attaches himself to the rituals in the temple, the church, or mosque, it is as if he were offering butter into ashes rather than into fire. One offers sacrifices by pouring clarified butter into a fire and chanting Vedic mantras. But even if there are Vedic mantras and all conditions are favorable, if the clarified butter is poured on ashes, then such a sacrifice will be useless. In other words, a devotee should not ignore any living entity. The devotee must know that in every living entity, however insignificant he may be, even in an ant, God is present. And therefore, every living entity should be kindly treated and should not be subjected to any violence. In modern civilized society, slaughterhouses are regularly maintained and supported by a certain type of religious principle. But without knowledge of the presence of God in every living entity, any so-called advancement of human civilization, either spiritual or material, is understood as being in the mode of ignorance. Dvishata parakaye ma manino bhinatarshina bhuteshu padavairasya namana shantam richati. One who offers me respect but is envious of the bodies of others and is therefore a separatist never attains peace of mind because of his inimical behavior towards other living entities. In this verse, two phrases, bhuteshu bhatta vairasya, inimical towards others, and dvishata parakaye, envious of another's body, are significant. Inimical towards others and envious towards others' bodies. One who is envious or inimical towards others never experiences any happiness. A devotee's vision, therefore, must be perfect. He should ignore bodily distinctions and should see only the presence of the part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and the Lord himself in his plenary expansion as Supersoul. That is the vision of a pure devotee. The bodily expression of a particular type of living entity is always ignored by the devotee. It is expressed herein that the Lord is always eager to deliver the conditioned souls who have been encaged within material bodies. Devotees are expected to carry the message or desire of the Lord to such conditioned souls and enlighten them with Krishna consciousness. Thus they may be elevated to transcendental spiritual life, and the mission of their lives will be successful. Of course, this is not possible for living entities who are lower than human beings. But in human society, it is feasible that all living entities can be enlightened with Krishna consciousness. Even living entities who are lower than human can be raised to Krishna consciousness by other methods. For example, Shivananda Sain, a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya, delivered a dog by feeding him prasad. Distribution of prasad, or remnants of foodstuffs offered to the Lord, even to ignorant masses of people and animals, gives such living entities the chance for elevation to Krishna consciousness. Factually, it happens that the same dog, when met by Lord Chaitanya at Puri, was liberated from the material condition. It is especially mentioned here that a devotee must be free from all violence, jīva. Lord Chaitanya has recommended that a devotee not commit violence to any living entity. Sometimes the question is raised that since vegetables also have life, and devotees take vegetable foodstuffs, isn't that violence? Firstly, however, taking some leaves, twigs, or fruit from a tree or plant does not kill the plant. Besides that, jīva means that since every living entity has to pass through a particular type of body according to his past karma, although every living entity is eternal, he should not be disturbed in his gradual evolution. A devotee has to execute the principles of devotional service exactly as they are, and he must know that however insignificant a living entity may be, the Lord is present within him. A devotee must realize this universal presence of the Lord. Aham uchavachar dravyai kriyayotpanayagnage naiva tushyer chitor chayam bhutagrama vamanina. My dear mother, even if he worships with proper rituals and paraphernalia, a person who is ignorant of my presence in all living entities never pleases me by the worship of my deities in the temple. Purport. There are 64 different prescriptions for worship of the deity in the temple. There are many items offered to the deity, some valuable and some less valuable. It is prescribed in Bhagavad Gita, if a devotee offers me a small flower, a leaf, some water, or a little fruit, I will accept it. The real purpose is to exhibit one's loving devotion to the Lord. The offerings themselves are secondary. If one has not developed loving devotion to the Lord and simply offers many kinds of foodstuffs, fruits and flowers without the real devotion, the offering will not be accepted by the Lord. We cannot bribe the personality of God. Our bribery has no value, nor has he scarcity, since he is full in himself. Since he is full in himself, what can we offer him? Everything is produced by him. We simply offer to show our love and gratitude to the Lord. This gratitude and love for God is exhibited by a pure devotee who knows that the Lord lives in every living entity. As such, temple worship necessarily includes distribution of prasad. It is not that one should create a temple in his private apartment or private room, offer something to the Lord, and then eat. Of course, that is better than simply cooking foodstuffs and eating without understanding one's relationship with the Supreme Lord. People who act in this manner are just like animals. But the devotee who wants to elevate himself to the higher level of understanding must know that the Lord is present in every living entity. And as stated in the previous verse, one should be compassionate to other living entities. A devotee should worship the Supreme Lord, be friendly to persons who are on the same level, and be compassionate to the ignorant. One should exhibit his compassion for ignorant living entities by distributing prasad. Distribution of prasad to the ignorant masses of people is essential for persons who make offerings to the personality of Godhead. Wow, this is a great point. And I'll come back to this later on. Real love and devotion is accepted by the Lord. Many valuable foodstuffs may be presented to a person, but if the person is not hungry, all such offerings are useless for him. Similarly, we may offer many valuable items to the deity, but if we have no real sense of devotion and no real sense of the Lord's presence everywhere, then we are lacking in devotional service. In such a state of ignorance, we cannot offer anything acceptable to the Lord. Performing his prescribed duties, one should worship the deity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead until one realizes my presence in his own heart and in the heart of other living entities as well. Purport. Worship of the deity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is prescribed herewith, even for persons who are simply discharging their prescribed duties. There are prescribed duties for the different social classes of men, the Brahmins, the Vaishyas, the Kshatriyas, and the Sudras, and for the different ashrams, Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. One should worship the deity of the Lord until one appreciates the presence of the Lord in every living entity. In other words, one should not be satisfied simply by discharging his duties properly. He must realize his relationship and the relationship of all other living entities with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If he does not understand this, then even though he discharges his prescribed duties properly, it is to be understood that he is simply laboring without profit. The words Swakarma Krit in this verse is very significant. Swakarma Krit is one who engages in discharging his prescribed duties. It is not that one who has become a devotee of the Lord or who engages in devotional service should give up his prescribed duties. No one should be lazy under the plea of devotional service. One has to execute devotional service according to his prescribed duties. Swakarma Krit means that one should discharge the duties prescribed for him without neglect. Just think about any comments. True, no jati buddhi, that is to say, no bodily discrimination. The glory of prasadam, even, yes. Atmanascha parasyapi yakaratyantaro dharam tasya bhena drisho mrityur vidhate bhayamul bhanam. As the blazing fire of death, I cause great fear to whoever makes the least discrimination between himself and other living entities because of a differential outlook. Cause great fear to whoever makes the least discrimination between himself and other. Purport. There are bodily differentiations among all varieties of living entities. But a devotee should not distinguish between one living entity and another on such a basis. A devotee's outlook should be that both the soul and supersoul are equally present in all varieties of living entities. Atamam sarvabhuteshu bhutatmanam kritalayam arhayetanamanabyam maitrabhinena chakshusha. Therefore, through charitable gifts and attention, as well as through friendly behavior and by viewing all to be alike, one should propitiate me, who abide in all creatures as their very self. Purport. It should not be misunderstood that because the supersoul is dwelling within the heart of a living entity, the individual soul has become equal to him. The equality of the supersoul and the individual soul is misconceived by the impersonalists. Here it is distinctly mentioned that the individual soul should be recognized in relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The method of worshiping the individual soul is described here as either giving charitable gifts or behaving in a friendly manner, free from any separatist outlook. The impersonalist sometimes accepts a poor individual as being Daridra Narayan, meaning that Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has become poor. This is a contradiction. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is full in all opulences. He can agree to live with a poor soul or even with an animal, but this does not make him poor. There are two Sanskrit words used here, man and dan. Man indicates a superior, and dan indicates one who gives charitable gifts or who is compassionate towards an inferior. We cannot treat the Supreme Personality of Godhead as an inferior who is dependent on our charitable gifts. When we give charity, it is to a person who is inferior in his material or economic condition. Charity is not given to a rich man. Similarly, it is explicitly stated here that man, respect, is offered to a superior, and charity is offered to an inferior. The living entities, according to different results of fruitive activities, may be rich or poor, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead is unchangeable. He is always full in six opulences. Treating a living entity equally does not mean treating him as one would treat the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Compassion and friendliness do not necessitate falsely elevating someone to the exalted position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We should not, at the same time, misunderstand that the supersoul situated in the heart of an animal like a hog and the supersoul situated in the heart of a learned Brahmin are different. The supersoul in all living entities is the same Supreme Personality of Godhead. By his omnipotency, he can live anywhere, and he can create his Vaikuntha situation everywhere. That is his inconceivable potency. Therefore, when Narayan is living in the heart of a dog, he does not become a hog Narayan. He is always Narayan and is unaffected by the body of the hog. Jīvasheshtaya jīvānam tatta prana prita shubhe tatta sachitta pravaras tattaschendriya vrittaya. Living entities are superior to inanimate objects, O Blessed Mother, and among them, living entities who display life symptoms are better. Animals with developed consciousness, okay, so now we're going through all the different kinds of living entities. Animals with developed consciousness are better than them, and still better are those who have developed sense perception. So all the gradations. Purports. In the previous verse, it was explained that living entities should be honored by charitable gifts and friendly behavior. And this verse and the following verses, and in this verse and in the following verses, the description of different grades of living entities is given so that one can know when to behave friendly and when to give charity. For example, a tiger is a living entity, part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the Supreme Lord is living in the heart of a tiger as Supersoul. But does this mean that we have to treat the tiger in a friendly manner? Certainly not. We have to treat him differently, giving him charity in the form of prasad. The many saintly persons in the jungles do not treat the tigers in a friendly way, but they supply prasad foodstuffs to them. The tigers come, take the food, and go away, just as a dog does. According to the Vedic system, a dog is not allowed to enter the house. Because of their uncleanliness, cats and dogs are not allowed within the apartment of a gentleman, but are so trained that they stand outside. The compassionate householder will supply prasad to the dogs and cats, who eat outside and then go away. We must treat the lower living entities compassionately, but this does not mean that we have to treat them in the same way that we treat other human beings. The feeling of equality must be there, but the treatment should be discriminating. Just how discrimination should be maintained is given in the following 6 verses concerning the different grades of living conditions. The first division is made between dead, stone-like matter and the living organism. A living organism is sometimes manifested even in stone. Experience shows that some hills and mountains grow. This is due to the presence of the soul within that stone. Above that, the next manifestation of the living condition is development of consciousness. The next manifestation is a development of sense perception. In the Moksha Dharma section of the Mahabharata, it is stated that trees have developed sense perception. They can see and smell. We know by experience that trees can see. Sometimes in its growth, a large tree changes its course of development to avoid some hindrances. This means that a tree can see, and according to the Mahabharata, a tree can also smell. This indicates the development of sense perception. Tatrapi sparshavedivya pravararasavedina devyo kanta vidasheshas tatta shabda vidovara. Among all the living entities who have developed sense perception, those who have developed the sense of taste are better than those who have developed only the sense of touch. Better than them are those who have developed the sense of smell, and better still are those who have developed the sense of hearing. Although Westerners accept that Darwin first expounded the doctrine of evolution, the science of anthropology is not new. The development of the evolutionary process was known long before from the Bhagavatam, which was written 5,000 years ago. There are records of the statements of Kapila Muni, who was present almost in the beginning of the creation. This knowledge has existed since the Vedic time, and all these sequences are disclosed in Vedic literature. The theory of gradual evolution or anthropology is not new to the Vedas. It is said here that amongst the trees there are also evolutionary processes. The different kinds of trees have touch perception. It is said that better than the trees are the fish, because fish have developed the sense of taste. Better than the fish are the bees, who have developed the sense of smell. And better than them are the serpents, because serpents have developed the sense of hearing. In the darkness of night, a snake can find its eatables simply by hearing the frog's very pleasant cry. The snake can understand, there is a frog, and he captures the frog simply because of its sound vibration. This example is sometimes given for persons who vibrate sounds simply for death. One may have a very nice tongue that can vibrate sounds like the frogs, but that kind of vibration is simply calling death. The best use of tongue the best use of the tongue and of sound vibration is to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That will protect one from the hands of cruel death. Oh, only 5 minutes left. I think we can. How long is this? Oh yeah, I think we can finish. Rupa Veda Vidas Tatra Tatasho Bhayato Tata Tesham Bahu Padashreshtash Chatushpadas Tato Dvipat. Better than those living entities who can perceive sounds are those who can distinguish between one form and another. Better than them are those who have developed upper and lower sets of teeth, and better still are those who have many legs. Better than them are the quadrupeds, and still better are the human beings. It is said that certain birds, such as crows, can distinguish one form from another. Living entities that have many legs, like the wasp, are better than plants and grasses, which have no legs. Four-legged animals are better than many-legged living entities, and better than the animals is a human being who has only 2 legs. Tato varnascha chatvaras tesham brahmana uttama brahmaneshvapi vedagyo hyartagyo vyadikastata. Among human beings, the society which is divided according to quality and work is best. And in that society, the intelligent men who are designated as Brahmins are best. Among the Brahmins, one who has studied the Vedas is the best. And among the Brahmins who have studied the Vedas, one who knows the actual purport of the Veda is the best. The system of 4 classifications in human society according to quality and work is very scientific. This system of Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras has now become vitiated as a present caste system in India. But it appears that this system has been current for a very long time, since it is mentioned in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and Bhagavad Gita. Unless there is such a division of the social orders in human society, including the intelligent class, the martial class, the mercantile class, and the labor class, there is always confusion as to who is to work for what purpose. A person trained to the stage of understanding the absolute truth is a Brahman. And when such a Brahman is Vedagya, he understands the purpose of Veda. The purpose of Veda is to understand the absolute. One who understands the absolute truth in three phases, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, and who understands the term Bhagavan to mean the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is considered to be the best of Brahmins or Vaishnava. Are we reading up to verse 31 today? I forgot what I wrote down. We're reading up to verse 32. Okay, we'll just read this verse and then finish it. Artha gyat sankshaya cheta tatra sheyan sakarma krit mukta sangastato bhuyan adogdha dharmamatmana. Better than the Brahman, who knows the purpose of the Vedas, is he who can dissipate all doubts, and better than him is one who strictly follows the Brahminical principles. Better than him is one who is liberated from all material contamination, and better than him is a pure devotee who executes devotional service without expectation of reward. Artha Brahman refers to one who has made a thorough analytical study of the absolute truth and who knows that the absolute truth is realized in three different phases, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. If someone not only has this knowledge, but is able to clear all doubts if questioned about the absolute truth, he is considered better.
It's 8 o'clock.
Further, there may be a learned Brahman Vaishnava who can explain clearly and eradicate all doubts. But if he does not follow the Vaishnava principles, then he is not situated on a higher level. One must be able to clear all doubts and simultaneously be situated in the Brahminical characteristics. Such a person, who knows the purpose of the Vedic injunctions, who can employ the principles laid down in the Vedic literatures, and who teaches his disciples in that way, is called an acharya. The position of an acharya is that he executes devotional service with no desire for elevation to a higher position of life. The highest perfection of Brahman is the Vaishnava. A Vaishnava who knows the science of the absolute truth but is not able to preach such knowledge to others is described as being in the lower stage. One who not only understands the principles of the science of God, but can also preach is in the second stage. And one who not only can preach, but who also sees everything in the absolute and the absolute truth in everything, is in the highest class of Vaishnavas. It is mentioned here that a Vaishnava is already a Brahman. In fact, the highest stage of Brahminical perfection is reached when one becomes a Vaishnava. All right. So we'll continue tomorrow. We will read about, where is it? Whatever. We'll read the answer to Devahuti's next questions. Wait, let me just open this up. Just curious. Gradation of the jīvas. So just now we read about inanimate objects, living with immovable objects, and entities with sense perception, that was the main one. And then humans with 2 legs, and then Brahmins, and then a pure devotee. Best person who has no interest in stuff. Anyways, okay. And then, so tomorrow we're going to read about the characteristics of time. And we'll finish this chapter. Alright. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Oh, and Dina Mataji said, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol. जय श्री श्री गुरु ग्रंथधारी गिरिधारी श्री श्री राधा विनोद बिहारी जू की जय श्री गोविंद गोपीनाथ मरन मोहन जू की जय निखिल कृष्ण विष्णुपाद अष्टतर शत श्रीमाचल भक्ति वेदांत नारायण गोसाई महाराज श्री गुरुदेव की जय निखिल विष्णु विष्णुपाद अष्टतर शत श्रीमाचल भक्ति वेदांत वामन गोसाई महाराज की जय निखिल विष्णु विष्णुपाद अष्टतर शत श्रीमाचल भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्री प्रभुपाद की जय Nityalapa Vishnu Vishnupad Ashtakarashatashman Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Gosai Maharaj Ki Jai. Nityalapa Vishnu Vishnupad Ashtakarashatashman Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosai Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nityalapa Vishnu Mahabhagavat Srila Gokshadash Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Nityalapa Vishnu Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Nityalapa Vishnu Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varma Ki Jai. Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Patashaknath Sharaka Sai Prabhu Ki Jai, Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramananda Rishi Gaur Parshad Vrinda Ki Jai, Nama Jai Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Kshetra Mandal Gaura Mandal Braja Mandal, Mathura Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Sarva Avishta Bharati Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai, Shri Arakund Shamakund Ki Jai, Shri Mona Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai, Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai, Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya Ki Jai, Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev Ki Jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Ki Jai, Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Bol. Vrindayi Tulsi Devai. Priyaya Keshavascha Krishna Bhakti Pradipati Sattvatai Namo Namaha. Pancha Kalpatarudhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyaeva Jana. Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavada. See you all tomorrow. All right, there you go.